Hello everyone, this is Atmanityananda and his online live stream podcast on spirituality and self-knowledge and yoga. Today I would like to speak about being and doing. Being is related to our true nature. Being is, we could say, a state. It's not something we do. To say it is a state is not correct as well. It's something, being is something so simple, but at the same time it's so difficult to express it in words, to put it in words. To be being means to be consciously what we are. But the question is what we are. I repeat, being means to be consciously aware or simply aware of what we really are, of what we are. But what we are. Usually, normally, the vast majority of people, due to ignorance and identification, believe that they are their bodies and their minds. They are physical entities. But in fact, we are consciousness. We are something beyond body, mind, energy, intellect, and ego. Mind, intellect, ego, in subconscious mind is what they call in the Eastern traditions as the inner instrument, Adhkarana. So we have the physical body, physical vital energy, and this apparatus we call Adhkarana, which is external mind, which includes thinking mind, emotional mind, and sensory mind, practical mind as well. Then there is intellect or intermediate mind, which is the capacity to discern, to apprehend, to understand, to have intuitive knowledge, to be aware of anything, to observe consciously something. There is a higher aspect and lower aspect of this intermediate mind. The lower is called intellect and the higher intelligence. And because of lack of knowledge, we confuse always the lower aspect of this intermediate mind with the thinking mind, with the problematic mind. And we say that the intellect is problematic. Yes, the lower part of the intellect is quite problematic. Dysfunctions. It's a dysfunctional, dysfunctional, not always, but a limited also. We can say a limited part of the intellect also dysfunctional, but intelligence is not dysfunctional at all. Which is the higher aspect of the intellect. And then we have subconscious mind, which is memory, but it's not only memory. It is the basis, the foundation of all other aspects of the mind, and it's related to love, also to the capacity to feel part of the life, that you are part of the life, unity of life. And all it is memory as well, and it's also creativity, it's creative also. And love for God, devotion is also related to this inner part of the mind, the deeper part of the mind. So, and ego is the central factor element that causes this identity identified with the body. This body is me. It is caused by this element we call ego, the egoic self. But the egoic self is related to the physical body most of all, and all mental, emotional expressions, elements, structures that are part of the mind in its totality. When I say mind, I mean external mind, intermediate mind, inner mind. So, and because of ignorance, we think that we are this physical, mental, emotional, intellectual being. But all these elements are only vehicles through which the consciousness we are expresses itself in this world and also to the subtler worlds, inner worlds of energy. So, being means to be aware of my true nature. What is this, my true nature? It's consciousness, it's also existence. But it's a formless existence. We have this form, physical body is a form. This body exists, but in reality, this is only an apparent existence, a temporary, transitory existence. While consciousness, it is an eternal existence, exists in eternity, without beginning, without end. And it always exists in this timeless now. In reality, it's the timeless now. Now is not part of the time, or of what we call time. The now is the timeless, eternal consciousness, which is just a presence, a formless presence that exists, because it's something that exists. But for our conditioned mind, limited mind, this appears something impossible or inconceivable, difficult to perceive, or to perceive, let's say perception, but to be aware. So when we say I exist, we refer always to the physical body. This physical body I am, I exist. And in this sense I exist, we attach this sense I exist to the physical body. In reality, this sense I exist, or I am has various meanings. I am means identity. I am this or that. I am means also it is related to locality. I'm here, I'm there. We use this. We use I am to say where we are. I'm in my home. But this I am, of course, refers to my existence. I am, my existence is here. I am the body, identity. I am means also I exist. I am also means some kind of a quality or a characteristic that we also identify with our identity. I am a professor. I am a teacher. This body, me, is a teacher. It's a qualification. I'm a teacher. I'm a coach, tennis coach. Although tennis coach is a role, is a capacity, a role we play, we identify this role and capacity with our identity, I am. I am coach. No, I can teach. I have the capacity to teach. I can play the role of the teacher. But it becomes part of our identity. So I am the body, I am a teacher. And also it is related with psychological functions or qualities. I'm intelligent. While the mind is intelligent, I am intelligent. That means I am the mind. I am the body, but since this intelligent mind exists in this body, so I am intelligent as this body me. This is my basic identity, the body. And everything else we identify with our identity refers to the physical body. I'm professor. This physical body is professor, and this physical body is me, so I am, as a body me, a professor. And that becomes our identity. But our true identity is consciousness, which is also formless, eternal, timeless existence. And when this light of consciousness, which is a light that we cannot see through the eyes, it cannot be seen, this light of consciousness, but it can be experienced directly without the aid of the senses. So we also identify ourselves with emotional characteristics like jealousy. I am jealous. I am angry. I am guilty. Anger is an emotional field that takes this special expression of anger and has a variety of expressions: strong anger, subtle anger, irritation, for example, annoyance. Irritation and annoyance are forms of anger. Rage, wrath, resentment. Hatred is accumulated anger. But we identify with this expression, emotional expression, we think I am angry, as if it were anger part of our selves. While in reality, anger is only an expression of the emotional mind and psychic vital energy. We take them as ourselves. So I am angry becomes our identity. Our identity is always consciousness. But as I said, due to ignorance and due to the impurities of the mind, the limitations and the purities of the mind, we cannot realize. We fail to realize our true identity, the eternal consciousness, and identify ourselves with the physical body. So being is not to be our body. We experience our body, we feel our body. This sense of bigness is related to our true self, consciousness, or Atman. Atman, it's better to say Atman because Atman has no any reference. So Atman is just Atman, just a word. What means Atman? Formless existence and consciousness and bliss. This is the main, the nature, the three main aspects of this divine essence we are. Atman. What is Atman? Formless existence, consciousness. What means consciousness? I am conscious and I am aware of my existence. Atman is conscious, doesn't need any other consciousness to be aware of itself. I don't say himself or herself. Atman is, it is neither female nor male. Nothing has to do with this. It's beyond any characteristic that are related to the physical or energetic forms. So Atman is not female, not male. Even what we call Shakti, Mahashakti, the Divine Mother, is not female. It's beyond male, female. When Mahashakti manifests itself, then appears duality, female and male. But in reality, if you get deeper, what does it mean, male and female? Nothing, just words. Are two distinct, we would say, manifestations of the divine Shakti, of the creative power of what we call God, which is consciousness, Atman. What is God? Eternal existence, formless eternal existence, consciousness, and bliss. And it's also wisdom, power, creative power, and wisdom, through which manifests this God consciousness manifests as this itself as this universe, and we are, as physical bodies and minds, we are a manifestation of this absolute or cosmic power, but in essence we are this power, we are this consciousness. Our essential nature, what we call our true self, it is one identical with God consciousness, with God. What is God? God is formless existence, consciousness and bliss. And some say even God is beyond that. And this is somehow the first modification. First, it's not correct to say like this, but okay, the first expression of this unknown principle of life, the ultimate, is beyond even that. But this is not my experience, I'm honest. I don't know. What experience is this formless, silent space of consciousness? Everywhere, in all situations, in all circumstances. This background, there is always a silent, peaceful background. This is our true nature. This is immediate in our experience, and it's a matter of knowledge and interest. Instead of losing ourselves in the experience, we can also be aware of this silent space of consciousness. So we can be aware of ourselves. This is being. What does it mean, being? Being aware of my beingness, of my existence. What is existence? It's not the body, not even this sense I am. Some say this sense I am is, no, this sense I am is the reflection of this consciousness on the sattvic part of the mind. This is, we could say, the individual identity self. But what we really are is this silent background, silent space of consciousness, which is the substratum of all our experiences, even of this sense I am. Is empty space. Difficult to describe. It's like it's difficult to describe even the physical space. What we see outside, it is objects, and these objects appear in an empty space. We can quite easily, relatively easily, depending on what is the object, to describe the object. We can describe a tree, a chair, a car, the sun. But difficult to describe what this empty space is. Just we can say this something empty. It has no shape, it has no color, it has nothing. So what to say? Just absence of everything. It's like this. We cannot describe what we really are. It's like empty space. It's not this empty space. We are what is aware. Who is aware of this empty space? This consciousness we are, which is also empty, like space, but it's not the space. It's so subtle and not possible to be perceived through the senses. But we can experience it immediately, directly here and now when we get in touch with this emptiness within us. But emptiness or nothingness does not mean that it's nothing. Even this space outside, this out space, although it's nothing, it's not a form, but it's not nothing, because without this space, objects, external objects cannot be. We need space to put some object in our room. The room is space, empty space, and then we put chairs, tables, television, whatever. We fill our rooms with objects, but we need first the space. Okay. So this space is nothing concrete, but we can see that it's nothing, absolutely nothing. It's a mysterious thing. More mysterious than the empty space, exterior space, is our true self. It's a great mystery. Inexplicable. We cannot explain, putting a word, describe or prescribe, or, I don't know. We cannot say anything. And when I say it is formless existence, in reality it's a pointer. It's not what really is what we are. And when we say it is consciousness, it's only a word to tell us that this capacity that we experience, that we exist, this is consciousness. Do not confuse words with the experience itself. One thing is the word anger, another thing is the anger in us, the expression of anger. One thing is the word water, another thing is to experience water, to see it or to drink water. One thing is to say, I drink water, but altogether another thing is to drink the water. So when I say I have drank a glass of water, the word is not what I did, but it's only a way to transmit the message, what I did. So similarly, when I say this, our true self is existence, it's not the word existence. It refers to an experience, intimate experience. How does this look like, this experience? It's like silence, empty space within. It's something like this. It's not even this. So we use words that are very close to the experience, so that the moment you have the experience to say, this is it. This is it. And then you can, the moment that, of course, we need to understand the words first, but the important thing is to realize what the word says. So the moment we realize in us this empty space of consciousness, the words have fulfilled their mission. You don't need any more the words, so you have to practice in relation with the silence. That means to maintain your attention firmly in this silent space of consciousness, to be constantly aware of this silent space of consciousness, to be aware of what you are. This becomes the center of the practice. Being, and this is being, and this is not an act. When I say you have to maintain your attention inwards in this inner space, it's not an act in reality. In the beginning, because our mind is always distracted and runs around in the external world, from object to object, or from thought to thought, moves from thought to thought. That's why we have to withdraw our attention from this movement of the mind and focus it on this inner silence. So this is a very subtle action, very subtle. But the moment we become aware of this silence, this is not more an action. The moment our attention, our mind and attention, because mind and attention go together, are distracted and stray away from this silence, then there is a movement, automatical, compulsive movement, because of the tendencies that drive the mind outwards or to the inner world, to the thoughts and emotions. And then we have to withdraw our mind again and attention to this inner silent space. This is some kind of action, very subtle, and does not need any special effort. It is so subtle, but it's a kind of action. And the moment we are aware, centered in this silence, there is no any more action. So if our mind is quiet, calm and serene, and that means that can remain in this can dwell quite effortlessly, easily in this inner silence, then we have a prolongation. There is a prolongation of this state of beingness. So in the beginning, this state of beingness can last only 1, 2, 3 seconds, and then our mind becomes distracted and attached to something. Then we will draw back the mind and the attention within. If the mind is agitated enough, then there is a almost constant movement. We withdraw the mind and attention within, and immediately this go to another object or thought, etc. Produces constantly thoughts and emotions, mostly thoughts, and the associated emotions come with these thoughts. So there is, we can strangling. Of course, does not need any to make any any super effort to withdraw the mind, but it's a way of strangling, because it is there is a lot of agitation. It's very agitated, the mind, so moves constantly, and normally the emotional state is also very agitated, so all this process to withdraw our mind, etc., and this go again to another object, to another thought, it's a little bit frustrating. So it's better in these cases to do some kirtan, to chant mantra, chant kirtans, or make mentally repeat a mantra, or do a walking meditation, repeating a mantra, doing some conscious breathing, so that to calm our minds and energy. Then we can, if the mind becomes quite calm, then we can remain constantly, just remain aware of this inner silence. If we remain for 1, 2, 3 seconds without an effort, then this is bigness. I am what I am consciously. This is a bigness. I am consciously what I am, being. This is being. Doing has to do with physical actions, but mental action. Thinking is an action, mental action. Also, this I told you before. When we withdraw our attention and mind from an external object and we focus it on the silence within or on the mantra, This is an action. Repetition of a mantra is an action. Is this a mental action an impediment to be aware of our bigness? Not at all. Because repetition of a mantra has nothing to do with the mechanical compulsive thinking, which is normally accompanied with emotional fluctuation. Repetition of mantra is not altogether different thing. And if we practice this for a long time, then it becomes so, this repetition becomes so easily, spontaneously, there is a flow. So we don't give much attention to for the repetition, so we are free. It's like the breathing becomes equal to the breathing, so natural, the repetition of mantra. So it's like the breathing. Breathing prevents us from experiencing this inner silence? Of course not, because it's something that happens by itself. So when we start in the beginning to repeat mantra, because it's something new and because our mind is so conditioned and so gross and cloudy, dense, then it's quite difficult to do both. Of course we can also be aware of the inner silence to some degree, but we need to give attention enough to the repetition, so there is a great part of our attention to the repetition of mantra, to listen to the mantra, to say the mantra correctly. And since our mind is not so well trained to concentrate easily to something, so it is also distracted, so we need to spend energy and attention to give our attention to this process, to concentrate our mind to the mantra, to say the mantra correctly, etc., etc. And so it's not so easy as it becomes later to be consciously what we are. And I speak always from my own experience. Of course we can also be aware of the silence, but after some or a lot of time of repetition of mantra, the mantra becomes so natural, then we don't give much attention to this. The repetition, it's something like happens by itself, we could say, with very, very little effort. So little, it's effortlessly. So most of our attention is connected with the inner silence, and so we feel plenty the bigness we are, this empty silent space of consciousness. We are consciously what we are. This is bigness, being. So doing and being are not opposite. Of course, if we identify ourselves with the doing, then we lose awareness of the inner silence. But the problem is not doing itself. The problem is that we are not capable to maintain our attention and mind centered in the silent space of consciousness within. It is because of habit and conditioning and impurities and heavy energy that attraction and attachment, desire, we easily attach our mind. In reality, our ego and mind is attached to the doing. Doing means sensory experience as well. And so there is no much attention, free attention, to maintain it in the consciously in the inner silence. And of course, if doing is related to pleasures and all these things related to selfish tendencies, of course, in order to experience this, it's not possible to experience pleasure without identification and attachment. So that's why, if we want to experience the peace and bliss of the divine essence within us, we have to lose pleasures. There are some, they say, oh, you can also have pleasure. No, you cannot. The moment you have pleasures, that means that part of your energy is outwards, part of your mind and attention, because without attention in mind there is no experience. So if you experience pleasure, so that means that part of your attention is outwards. And if you experience pleasure, it means that your mind is not pure. Because the moment, if the ego has been dissolved, then there is no pleasure. We can have pleasant and unpleasant experiences, but not pleasure. Pleasure is another thing. It's very subjective. And it's related to the ego itself, not to the experience. So when the ego is dissolved, that means lasciviousness is dissolved, lust is dissolved, there is no pleasure. So we can experience the objects, having pleasant and unpleasant experiences, yes, but not pleasure. Not happiness, even happiness, because we experience the bliss of the self. If our mind is identifying lost, has lost itself in the bliss of the self, how can it experience the external reality? So it is needed part of attention, it is necessary part of the attention to be outwards. So doing, it's by itself is not an impediment, does not hinder the consciousness. It is our identification and attachment to the doing that prevents us from experiencing the inner silence, to be aware of our bigness. And especially, as I said, when these actions are selfish actions, that means because of our selfish desires. And selfish desires go together with attachment and interest and fascination, so we are lost there. But repetition of mantra is not related with selfish desires. It is related to devotion and love, so devotion and love help us to calm our mind and keep the mind inwards. Of course, there is the external devotion to a status or to an image, but it is only the beginning of devotion. Real devotion is without images, without any form. It's formless devotion. The real devotion is formless devotion. So love and devotion bring the mind inwards and help us to connect with this inner silence. So devotion is doing, repetition of mantra is a doing. But not only not only not prevents us from experiencing the silence, but helps us. The repetition of mantra is not only, it is from one side, it's not an impediment, but it is also a helpful means to get in contact with the silence and maintain conscious contact with the inner silence, to remain in this state of bigness. So doing and bigness can go together. Of course, to experience our being fully and totally, we have to stop any action and get in this state it is called samadhi. So in this state, it is impossible any action, because our mind is completely absorbed in this silence. So there is no movement, there is no me, there is no you, there is no nothing. There is the non-dual experience of the self. So in this state of samadhi, action is impossible. But there is a possibility, that what the teacher says, sahasa samadhi, a natural samadhi, effortless samadhi, to rest or to dwell or to abide in the silence, and at the same time part of the attention is outwards, without being attached to the external reality or to any reality, I could say, because there is no, since the ego is has been dissolved, there are only some intuitive thinking, we could say, or creative thinking. So there is no this play of attachment with thinking, all these and emotions of ego. There is pure love and peace, and only some thoughts can arise, creative thoughts, to read something, to write something, like Sivananda has written many books, or to say something, to reflect on something, but it's a different thing. So being and doing is, there are two main aspects of our existence as human beings. We are beings and we are doers. The problem is that we identify with the doer and we think that we are the doer. And I've forgotten to say that our beingness, our identity, divine essence, is actionless. Doesn't do anything. It remains changeless, immovable, and actionless. So for some teachers, liberation is only to realize our true self and attach our mind to be totally absorbed in this static aspect of God, of Brahman.